Hello guys, welcome to this tutorial. So today we're looking into spread and rest operators in JavaScript. So basically, spread operators is represented by 3 dots in JavaScript and also the rest operator. And the difference is their positioning, where they are used. So basically, the spread operator represented by 3 dots is used to split an element of an array or object into individual elements or properties. It's mainly used for creating a shallow copy of an array or an object, or also merging arrays, merging objects. So when you talk about a shallow copy, I think you already know what a shallow copy is. A shallow copy basically is when you're copying the first level of elements in an object. You know, basically in JavaScript, majorly all the data types are in form of an object, directly or indirectly, but arrays and objects now. And if you create an array and you use the equal sign to assign it to another variable, what happens is it's usually a reference. It creates a reference to the original array. We're going to see that. We're going to look into that example now, but I just want to explain 1 or 2 things so that you understand. A shallow copy is basically where you copy the top level structure and not the inner levels. For example, if you have an object and you have an object of persons that has name, age, and then you now have employee data, which is another object inside of the object. So the employee data is no longer a top level structure. So a shallow copy only copies the top level structure, and anything other from the top level structure, it creates a reference to the original object. So basically you use the spread operator to create a shallow copy of an array. That's why it's called a shallow copy and not a deep copy. So let's take a look at an example here. I'm going to create an HTML file here, HTML. I'm going to call it index.html, index.html. And I'm going to create a template here, HTML5 template, and I'm also going to have a script here, a script tag, a script file, which are going to attach to our HTML so that we can test. So right here, I'm going to add the script. Script source. So right here, we're just going to do a scripts.js. I'm going to save it. And we're going to start this up with live server. Open with live server. So the first thing I want to do is create an array of even numbers. Even array. That will be 2, 4, 6, 8, and then create odd that will contain an odd number. Then we want to take a look at the assignment operator and see how it handles it. First of all, let us create I'm going to call this a referenced even array. And I'm just going to assign it to the even array and also do the same with the odd array. So if you look at this, the first thing you would think is that I want to copy this even array into a new variable called referenced even array, and also this odd. But that is not what is happening in here because of the way JavaScript works. What is actually happening here is that this variable is now being stored a reference to this original object. It is not creating a copy, it is just storing a reference to this original object. So if I modify this original object and I console log this, I will see the value of the original object. So let's take a look at it here. So first of all, let us console.log the referenced array and also console log the even array. Going to change this to even array. So if I do that, you can see they contain the same elements. Now I'm going to modify the first item of the even array. So let's imagine I say even array position 0 and I set it to equals to 10. Now I'm going to just console log both of them again, both the even array and the. So if you take a look here, both of them are now 10, both the referenced array and the even array here. Let me comment this out so that we don't get confused. You can see both of them are now 10, but I only modified the even array, which is this. But because I'm using an equals to here, it is not copying the content into this variable. Instead, it's storing the reference to this original object in this array. So when I console log this array, what it does is it goes to fetch the even array and logs it out. So now how does this have to do with spread and rest operator? So for spread operator, we're going to look into spread operator now. Spread operators. So in the case of spread operator, I'll create a variable named spread even array. So, and then for me to spread the array, I'll first initialize it with 3 dots and then the name of the array, which is the even array. So basically, what I'm doing right now is I'm spreading the content of this array into this variable. So right now, once JavaScript sees this preceding 3 dots, it performs a shallow copy of this array and store it into the new array. So it's not storing the reference, but a shallow copy of this. So now if I change, okay, let me comment this out. We don't need this again. So if I console, if I update like we did here, I'm going to just move this to after I've spread it here. So updating position 0 to 10, and now I want to console log both of them and see even array and console log the spread array. So you can see that the even array contains the original element. Well, the spread even array contains the original element, while the even array has been modified. The position 0 has been modified. So this is no longer affecting this. And that is the use of this spread operator. It performs a shallow copy. So I'll just put that here. It performs a shallow copy of the array. So that's the beauty of the spread operator. Now, what we want to look now is also using spread operators in objects. Let's take a look at the application in an object. Spread operators in objects. So let's create a person object. Const person is equals to, I can say, name John, age 30, and then what else do we need? We can say last name is James. Now, if I did like the first example here, create a referenced person object and assign the person object to it here. If I console, if I update the person.name equals I can say BB. And I console.log both of them, you see that it gets affected, the referenced object get affected by the update here, because it is actually referencing this object that was updated. You can see it here. The name of them became Billy. But in a case where, I'm going to comment all this out. In a case where I now use a spread operator, spread person equals to person A, and I now do person.name equals to Billy, and then console.log person, and also console.log the spread objects. You can see that they are different also, because this is a shallow, this is actually a copy, a shallow copy. It copied this object here. So let's now imagine that we have another object here called address. Let's say here we have city and street. And then you can see both of them are in this. But what you need to know is that inside of the spread object, this is actually a reference to this address here, because this is the second level. This is no longer a top level structure. This is a second level structure. And we say when we're performing a shallow copy, it only copies the top level structure, which is this. So now if we update the person address, person dot address street is equals to, instead of 1, 2, 3, let's make it 4, 5, 6 main street. Now that we've left it, let us take a look at the log for both of them. I'm going to comment this out and save it. So if you check the address, you see that it has been updated in the spread object here. It has also been updated when we update the person object here to 4, 5, 6 instead of 1, 2, 3. Remember, we did the default here is 1, 2, 3. We now update the person object here after spreading it to the spread object. We updated it here, but it still affected the spread object because spreading only performs a shallow copy. It doesn't perform a deep copy. So it's just the top level structure that gets duplicated. So anything other than the top level structure will become a reference. It will only store a reference to that. So basically, that is all about spread. Now let's take a look at REST. The same thing. REST also is basically the same thing. The only thing is that REST is most of the time used with function. So let's take a look at what the REST operators with function is. So if you want to go deep down into the REST operators, you can check one of my other tutorials, which I link in the top here, where I went a little bit deeper into REST, performing a REST operation on objects. So let's look at the REST. REST operator with functions. Okay, instead of let's first look at with arrays, and then we'll look at with functions. So basically with array, remember we have an even array here at the top here, which contains of even number 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And if you look at this contains of how many items? 5 items. So I can do something like this. So imagine that inside of this array here, I want to pull out the first item and also get the rest of the items here as an array. That is when we use the REST operator here. So if I should console.log the first, and also the rest, you will see what that is. You can see here the first item is 10, because we have updated it somewhere along the line here. So I'm going to comment this out so that we'll have the first item should be 2. You can see it there, and then the rest contains whatever remains, the other elements of the array, which includes the 4, 6, 8, and 10. You can see it here, the rest. So basically, this is what you use the rest for. You can also use it in object also. You can also use this in object, but what we want to check now is for the function. Like I said, if you want to go deeper into it, you can check my other tutorial on destructuring. So right here, let us take a look at using rest operators with functions. So imagine we have a function where we pass an argument into it. Wait to comment this out first of all. And then we say console.log. We call sum and passing instead of, and we pass in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. And then we save it. You can see here, logging the args here is giving us an array. It's collected all these parameters and made it into an array. You can see it here. And if we even check the type of it, we'll see that it is an object. Let's console log the type, console.log type of args. You can see it's logging an object here. And we can also have something like number. You can specify number and then args. So in that case, args becomes this. And this first one becomes the first. You can see here that the args becomes what? 2, 3, 4, 5. And then if I log them, it will be 1. Console.log. You can see num is equals to 1 and then args the rest of the parameters that I passed there. So basically that is the use of, and then if we use the accumulator, you can see the sum here becomes what? The 14. So basically that is how you use the spread and the rest operators. Basically most times you will be using the rest operators in functions and arrays, just like it's being used here. So that has brought us to the end of today's tutorial. So if you learned something from this tutorial, kindly like and subscribe to this channel and help me grow my channel by liking and subscribing. It goes a long way for me. So thank you and see you some other time.